favorite systems that describes levels of development, psychological development, and cultural or collective development is spiral dynamics. And it describes the levels of development that we go through, that ego basically goes through from birth all the way through adulthood. And the way that spiral dynamics is laid out is it describes more of like the collective development. In other words, it talks about caveman days and what it was like to be a caveman. Then it talks about the magical time periods when the world was enchanted and all the stars and the planets were all alive and gods and talking to people. That kind of level of development. And then it goes into the next level of development where it talks about the egocentric level of development, where we call it the power gods. Basically when kings were fighting kings and there were a bunch of wars and that kind of thing. And then we sort of moved out of that level of development, and I'm describing it from what happens culturally, but it also happens inside each individual. They mirror each other. And so the next level of development is what we call the authoritarian, and that's when the church came in, and order and government came in, and just order and structure, and there's one right way to do things. And up to about 100 years ago, that was the highest level of development that culture went through. Everybody believed in God and the church and the churchmen and the government and the president and all of that, and they were right, and you just gave your authority over to them. And then basically about 300 or 500 years ago, we had the age of scientism, or the age of enlightenment, we call it in Europe, and that was when science broke away from the church. And then we have this achievement strategic level of development, which is where all of our systems are right now. So all of our corporate systems, our accounting systems, our government systems, our law is all at that, as science is all at that level of development. And that level of development is where most conservatives are as well. And so most of what I see is then the next level of development, which really started in the 60s where we had the humanistic movement, you have the liberals. And so a lot of the fighting going on between the conservatives and the liberals have been just the level of development difference. But the main problem that I see is that at this level of development, which is the last level of development of ego, before this massive shift that we're in right now, where we get into the second tier. So this is the first tier and this is the second tier. This has to solve its narcissism. This level right here, the liberal level of development, while they're reaching out and wanting to save the planet, they haven't, their work is to solve their own narcissism. And so we have a massive collaboration of narcissistic efforting in the world between the liberals and conservatives. They're aligned in that way. They don't know it because it comes out in a negative, it comes out in a hidden and negative way in the liberals. But that is what has to happen here. And so what we're faced with in the world right now is this level of development, this level of development, this level of development, and these higher levels of development are all at large in the adult population right now. And most of the millennials are probably coming in up here. They're like right up here. And with this level of development, this is the first level of development. This is called the integrative level of development. It's the first level of development that sees the whole spiral. Because down here, each level of development thinks their level of development is the only level of development, and it's the right level of development, and everybody else is wrong. And you can start to see that's what goes on between the conservatives and the liberals. And so what we're going through right now in the world at large is this massive shift from the first tier to the second tier. Huh. We're either going to make it or we're not going to make it. I can tell you that this first tier is all driven by fear. And one of the massive changes, and why I keep picking on the liberals to sort of wake up to love and light, is that this is driven by love. Mm. This is driven by fear, this is driven by love. So the massive shift, the thing that I keep talking about, raise your vibrations, come from a place, your intention here has to be love, not fear. I'm trying to help people get to this shift here. right? And then be compassionate for those below. Not calling them enemy, but having compassion, going, oh wow, I really want to help them. And you can't really help them get here, or you can help them be as less toxic in the level of development that they're at right now. That's really the help, because this is really, a lot of this is timed. A lot of these levels of development only come on by struggles that are driving you to resolve whatever the problems are. And you basically go, wow, we can't resolve the problems of the world at this level. You know, Einstein said that, right? And so that's what keeps driving us up. The spiral is like, okay, we've created problems here. We're just destroying the planet. So now what do? Right? Okay, we got to get smarter. We got to, you know, look at things differently and so on. And that's what drives the spiral, basically, as far as the development goes. So that was a long explanation, and I hope it made sense.